Good morning everyone, and I welcome each one of you to today's webinar Angular 2 with TypeScript. My name is DJ Kumar and I'm on Twitter at debug_mode. Before we move ahead in today's webinar, I would like to draw your attention to some important points. That this webinar is brought to you by Infragistics, and during webinar if you want to share your experience on Twitter or Facebook, feel free to use hashtag Infragistics, or if you want you can tag Infragistics Twitter handle as well. Feel free to tweet it and share it either during the webinar, or you can share your feedback and experience after the webinar as well. Now, recording of this webinar will be available on Infragistics blog by next week. And once recording is available on Infragistics blog, all of you attendees would get an email notification that recording is available, and you can view that later. All our products are available for free trial, so you can go on infragistics.com, choose a product of your choice and download free trial for 30 days. If you have any technical queries, you can send me email, or you can send email to our ask questions in our Infragistics forums, or can create support tickets, etc. And after evaluating the product, if you think that you have some sales related query, then these two email addresses are very important for you. If you are from India, then feel free to send email to sales-india@infragistics.com. And if you are from APAC, feel free to send email to apacsales@infragistics.com. These are the email addresses on which you will get help on any sales related queries, or any if you have any queries while buying our Infragistics product. And while evaluating Infragistics product, you can very much ask questions on forums. Feel free to send some questions to me. I'll share my email address and all. So these are a few important points. You may want to note it down, the email addresses and other information from this slide. All right, so once this is done, now agenda of today webinar. Today we are going to, it's Angular 2 getting started webinar. So I'll be I'll be touching all basic building blocks of Angular 2, like modules, components, services, routing, form validation, and we'll see that how much we can reach there, because we have 60 to 70 minutes at max. But the whole purpose of today's webinar is that after end of the webinar, when you go back, you should able to start building basic applications, and you should able to make sense that what is written on Angular 2 official documentation, and you should able to speed up your learning and basic project application development in Angular 2. So that's the agenda for today's webinar. And I have a good news to share with each one of you. So Ignite UI is our JavaScript jQuery based library, and now Ignite UI is our JavaScript based library. Just a minute. And now Ignite UI is open source, so you can very much go download, contribute, and see how this is written. You can fork it, you can contribute to it, and the detailed blog post you'll find on the URL which is given there, which is on infragistics.com community/blogs. And let me just show you that URL on that blog post on your screen. On your screen, you should be able to see a blog post that big news for the web development community, that Ignite UI is now open source. So this is a blog post. Feel free to go and you can find our GitHub repo for Ignite UI, and feel free to contribute. These are the available features in Ignite UI open source version, which you can see on your screen. That we give you IG combo, HTML editor, ratings, validator, currency editor, date editor, mask editor, text editor, date picker. These controls are available as open source, and feel free to read the documentation, and if you wish to, you can contribute to those that open source as well. So this is a great move from Infragistics to enable developers and get the real feedback, get engaged with the developer all across in our open source project Ignite UI. Ignite UI supports, you can use Ignite UI in your Angular 2 application. You can use it in Knockout. You can use it in with Bootstrap. So you can go to igniteui.com, and it has all the availability, all the features and documentation. So here it says that you can use Ignite UI with Angular 2. You can use it with React. So it is still in preview, but very much you can go and explore that. And of course, we support Ignite UI with AngularJS Bootstrap. And we have a very good support if you are coming from ASP.NET MVC development background, and you want to deal with large number of records, and show them in grid, filtering, server side, client side, pagination, server side, client side, templating, and all that. We have great support for that. Feel free to go and look into Ignite UI in ASP.NET MVC. And what is good of Ignite UI in ASP.NET MVC, that even though it is a jQuery control, you can very much configure that either on your CS/HTML, which is views in your ASP.NET MVC, or you can configure that very much with a strongly typed class in your controllers action. So feel free to look into them, and if you have any queries, you can reach out to me for technical queries, and for sales queries, I already have shared email addresses with you. So this is good, Ignite UI, and I'm very happy sharing this with you that now Ignite UI is open source. Great, let us move ahead. My name is, so I'm host for today's webinar, and my name is DJ Kumar. I work as developer evangelist for Infragistics. I'm a 7 times Microsoft MVP. You can reach to me on Twitter at debug_mode, and this is email address which you may want to note it down. If you have any queries, feel free to reach me at dkumar@infragistics.com. And I do very frequent blogging. You can read all these contents which we are going to talk today on my blog, debugmode.net. Great. So what we are going to do, I don't have any slides. I don't believe in having slides. Like if you want to go and read in detail what are the advantages of Angular 2, why you should be using Angular 2 and all, I would recommend that you go to angular2.io and read all those documentation. In today's webinar, what I'm going to do, I'm going to write codes, and I'll show you along that how you can get it started and create a simple application in Angular 2. The environment which I'm going to use VS Code, and I'll be using TypeScript to do Angular 2 development. You have other two options as well. You can use ECMA 7, and that is JavaScript 2016, or you can use DART. So there are other two options available as well, but I'm going to use TypeScript, and I find TypeScript as most popular choice among the developers to create Angular 2 apps. And of course, to install dependencies and all that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use npm for that purpose. Great. So why Angular 2? Let us leave it here and go back to our the Angular.io, and here you will find all those documentations, which will help you to get it started with Angular 2. I really find Angular 2 documentation very, very good. It is very descriptive in a very simple language. You can go here and click on docs. Here you have options to go through the developer guide, quick start, go through the API references. In the API references, you have all things like these are the libraries and modules inside Angular Common. So if you want to read about, for example, async pipe, you can just click async pipe, and here it is saying that what it does, how to use it, what is the module for this particular, what is the library for this particular module, and then it is saying that how you can use async pipe. So I find Angular 2 documentation really, really good. And if you are very first time going to see Angular 2 code, it should, after today webinar, you should able to make sense of this code, and you should be good in good shape to get it started with Angular 2. Great. So what I have done here, let us now jump to our source code. And so what I have done here is that I have a starter project, which I'll share link with you, which a starter project to use. So since Angular 2, I'm going to use TypeScript for Angular 2 development. This TypeScript has to be transpiled to JavaScript, because your browser does not understand .ts. Your browser does understand only .js. So even though you are writing a TypeScript, that should get transpiled to JavaScript, and this transpilation process, to transpile this, you need TypeScript compiler and all those stuff. So setting it up is I would not say tedious, but setting it up is not that straightforward. For sure we need to know that how to set it up, but for purpose of this webinar, what I have done, I have already have a starter project, and on top of that I'm going to build application. There's one other good news that Angular team is coming up with something called Angular CLI, and Angular CLI will help you to create projects, to create components, to create other stuff of Angular 2. So Angular 2 CLI will provide us commands which will run, and it will create project for us, and it will create other stuff of Angular 2. So that is still yet to be in next webinar. Probably we'll look into that, how to do that. So I would recommend that before getting into the setting up your project, let us first start with the learning of various building blocks of Angular 2, and once that is done, and then anytime we can go back and learn how to set it up, the project. Great. So far it is good. Now let us go here and look into this code. So you see that on your screen I have a Visual Studio Code, and inside Visual Studio Code I have some code which I'm going to walk you through. So let us start with index.html. Since all of us know that Angular 2 is used to create single page application, so essentially it is going to have one main HTML, and other HTML, I would not say other HTML, but other views would be loaded inside this HTML. So here you see that on my HTML, what I have done, there are various project references here, like for example, Zone.js. Zone.js is to create, Zone.js deals with execution context when you are making a asynchronous call. You have System.js, which deals with dynamic module loading and all. So when you use that starter project, already you find all these things are here. But you should be focusing on code from line number 32 to line number 37. In line number 33, what I'm doing, I'm using a kind of HTML element called app container, and this app container I'm using okay, so let me go slow. In line number 33, what I'm doing, I'm using Angular 2 component called app container. Keep in mind that this could be anything. This could be ABC. So this is just the name which we have given to create that container. Don't get confused that this app container is a keyword or something like that. It is a component which is going to be entry component of our application, and we have created that. So this is app container. We'll start from here and go further. Uh, so in the index.html, other thing which is important in this particular project structure is main.ts. So here, if you go to main.ts, in main.ts, in line number 1, I am importing a module called Platform Browser Dynamic from Angular Platform Browser Dynamic library. Then I'm importing another module in line number 3 from Angular core library. So whenever in your Angular 2 code you see that if we are importing something, and that library starts with at a rate, it means that is the library given to us in Angular 2 framework. We have not created that. However, whenever you find something which starts with dot, which you can see in line number 2, it means we have created that particular module or that particular library. Now in main.ts, if you notice that we are importing app module from app.module. Now how it works, that since we are using TypeScript and dynamic module loader, we do not need to give extension of our files while using them. That would be taken care by that would be taken care. What all you need to do, we have to give the file name and the module name without any extension. So here in line number 2, what we are saying that, hey, import app module. App module is something which we have created, or app module is a module which we have created from a file called app.module.ts. After importing that, importing means like if you are coming from language C, it is kind of including a header file, or if you are coming from .NET, it is kind of using a namespace. So exactly here we are importing an app module, and then we are saying that, hey, bootstrap that particular module for this particular application in line number 6. So keep in mind your Angular 2 application can have any number of modules. However, you will be bootstrapping only one module as the main module or entry level module of your application. And that's what I am doing in line number 6. So we have imported app module from app.module.ts, and then we are using that, we are bootstrapping that in line number 6. So for our application, the main module has become app module. Great. So line number 2 is saying that, hey, go and find this app module inside app.module.ts. So let us go and open app.module.ts, and here it is app.module.ts, which is our main module in this scenario. Line number 1 to line number 4, what we are doing, we are importing all the required libraries which we need to create a basic application. So for example, in line number 3, we are importing forms module from Angular forms library. Forms module will help us in doing input validations. It will help us to create a form. So for that we are importing that. Line number 4, we are importing HTTP module. This module will help us to work with an external REST API. If we want to do HTTP GET operation or POST operation, we would be using HTTP module. So we are importing all these modules: ng module, browser module, forms module, and HTTP module in our main module, which is happen to be app module. What does it say? It says that we can use all these modules throughout our application because we are importing it on the top of our on the main module, which is going to be the top module of all the modules. So only we got to import them here, and then we can use it anywhere. If we are importing it in any other module which is not main module, then we can only use those modules which we are importing to the module which are child of that module, or only inside that particular module. So hence the reason we are importing it here. Then line number 6 says that, hey, import so let us go to line number 6. Line number 6 says that import something called app component from app.component.ts. As we discussed that we don't provide file extension, so we are saying that, hey, import app component from app.component. Now what is that app component? We'll look into that. And after that, you see that we are using ng module decorator. So in Angular 2, if you are using TypeScript, it is very simple. Everything is a TypeScript class. So if you want to create a component in Angular 2, you'll create a TypeScript class and you will decorate it using component decorator. If you want to use a pipe in TypeScript class, you will in Angular 2 application, you will create a TypeScript class and then decorate that with pipe decorator. If you want to create a service in Angular 2, you'll create a class, export a class, and then decorate that class with service decorator. Same, if we want to create a module, we have to create a class and then decorate that class using ng module decorator. That's what we are doing. In line number 15, we are creating a class called app module. And if you remember, we were importing this class, which we are exporting here. In line number 15, we were importing that in main.ts. In main.ts, we were importing this class and then bootstrapping this particular mod. Now you see that ng module decorator, line number 9, is a function and that takes an object as a parameter, and that object has different properties. But most important properties are imports. So whatever module we are going to use inside this module, we have to import that. So first we need to include them here, and then we have to explicitly import them in line number 10. So tomorrow, if you are going and creating a custom module of yourself, what you got to do, you got to first import them on the top of your main module and then put them, pass them in the array of imports properties of ng module. After that, so far we have only one component, that is app component. So we got to declare that. In your application, you can have any number of components. When you have multiple components, you got to first import them, and then you got to pass them as the value of declaration array of the module. Now again, as your application can have any number of module, and one module has to be bootstrapped to become the main module. In the same way, your application can have any number of module, but any number of components. I'm sorry, but one component should be bootstrapped and should become the main component. In this scenario, it happened that we have only one component, that is called app component. So we are bootstrapping that by passing in the bootstrap parameter of the module. Great. So here is our very simple module which we bootstrapped. So app module is our main module, and that module is importing some of common Angular 2 modules, and then it is importing a custom component which we created called app component from app.component.ts. Now let us move and see that how we can create our first component. So go to app.component.ts. In app.component.ts, you see that it's very simple to create a component. What I'm going to do, so my class name is app component. So the convention is, if you are creating a component called calculator, you will give file name as calculator.component.ts, everything in a small, and the class which you'll be creating would be calculator component, where C capital and C of component capital. So here you see that here, if you notice, my file name is app.component.ts. Just below data service.ts, you can notice that file name is app.component.ts and class name is app component, where A is capital and C is capital. In this class, we have nothing but just one property called message, and that one property is having a value called hello ignite UI in Angular 2. So let us go ahead and change this to let us say hello Infragistics. Okay, so this is a normal property we do have. Now, keep in mind this class is nothing but a TypeScript class. Since we are using export keyword, so this class can be imported in other TS file and we can use it. However, still this class is not a component. And to make it component, what we need to do, we need to decorate it with component keyword. Okay, so to do that, what first you need to, in line number 2, you need to import component module from angular dash core. Once that is done, we need to decorate this class with component, and to decorate that class we are going to use as component, we'll use @component, and again that is a function which takes one object as a parameter. Now component decorator takes has many number of parameters, but most important parameters are selector. So what selector does, using selector we will use this particular component in on different views, and we can give whatever name we wish to. So let us say we are giving that, hey, name of this component is uh, main C. I'm just calling it main component or main C. So that is the main C we will be using everywhere on the HTML. However, everywhere on TS we'll be using app component. So selector is to use that on the views on the HTML. Once you have selector, every component need to have a view. In Angular 2, you have 3 types of directives, which I'll just note it down here for you. So Angular 2 has 3 types of directive. The first directive is known as component, and component is nothing but a directive with a view. So component must have a template. The second type of directive is called attribute directive. What attribute directive does is, let us say you want to change, you want to create an attribute which you can apply to a particular existing HTML element or existing component. You can create an attribute directive, and a simplest example of attribute directive could be you want to change background color on basis of some user input or something. So in that case you'll be using attribute directive. And third kind of directive is a structure directive. So a structure, what a structure directive does, that it changes a structure of your HTML element or existing component. For example, there's a structure directive called ng_for. What it does, it will repeat that number of elements. Then you have ngIf, etc. So these are the 3 types of directive, and most important directive is I would say component, because component is a kind of directive which have its own view, will have its own style. So component is nothing but component is something which has its own data and logic. So component has its own data logic, it has its own template means HTML and view, and it has its own style, means CSS. So here we are going to do that, and to convert a TypeScript class to a component, you got to use component decorator, which I'm using here, selector. Now let us go and put a template, and here is a template property which you can set. And template property could be that takes HTML. So I'll go and say that, hey, h1, and in this what we want to do in this header, h1 header, we want to display this particular message. And how we can do that? We can do that using data binding. In Angular 2 you have 4 types of data binding, we shall come later, but here you can say that, hey, template, and just display me this. And here we are saying that template h1 message. So what it will do, it will display this message in that particular template. So these two properties you must have to set to start using a component. And here what I have done, I have created a class called app component, then set a property called hello infragistics, then set selector, then the template value. In template we are using interpolation, we are going to display this message. Great. So we have created our first component, and this first component called app component is our main component. It is, we are bootstrapping this component. So what we got to do, you please focus here in line number 5. We can use this component using selector main C. So select that selector main C, copy, and then go back to your index.html. In index.html, we got to replace this main C, because we have changed that app container to main C in the selector, and here always your main component would come. And if I again go back and revise, in main.ts we are bootstrapping app module. Okay, in app module, if I go to app module.ts, I'm saying that bootstrap app component line number 13. I'm saying that bootstrap app component line number 13, and then in app component.ts, what I'm saying that, hey, use this component using selector main C, which is here main C. That's why in index.html I'm using main C. Now let us go back here and say that, oh yeah, now I'll go to command prompt. In the command prompt, what I'm saying that, hey, run that application, and to run that application I'll use a command npm start, which is coming from package.json. And also when you download this starter project, you got to run npm install to install all the dependencies. So here it is going to run my application. And as you notice on your screen that it has launched a TypeScript compiler. Wow, so let us go back and see that whether we saved that or not. So in app.component.ts, we have said that hello Infragistics. We make sure that we go and save all. So once everything is saved, I guess we should get the reflected result. So here it is hello Infragistics, and last time we did not save the changes to index.html file. Great, so here it is your first component. You created your first component. I'm just going very step by step and going to note it down that to create your first component, what you got to do, the steps. So to create a first component, the step 1 is create a class and export it. Step 2 is import common module and other required modules. Once that is done, what you got to do, you got to use component decorator. You got to use component decorator, which takes an object as a parameter on the class. In the component decorator, there are many properties which we need to set, but important properties are selector, then template, and then other properties which I'll show you later. Now to use a component, what you got to do, you can either use a component by bootstrapping it, which we did in app component case, or what you can do, you can use a component inside another component, which I'll show you next. Or third, you can use a component in routing. So you will route from one component to another component, which I'll show you as well. Again, the convention what you got to follow, that if your file name is ABC, if you want to create a ABC component, then the file name should be abc.component.ts, and the class name corresponding to this should be ABC component, where C capital and A capital. So this is what you need to follow to create a basic component or to any kind of component in Angular 2. Now I'm going to leave you for 1 minute to just consolidate this learning, and if you have any question, feel free to ask that in Q&A panel. After 1 minute, we'll go and start writing complex components using data binding. Great. So let us come back and focus on a little bit of data binding in Angular 2. In Angular 2, you have 4 types of data binding. The first type of in Angular 2, you have 4 types of data binding. First is called interpolation. In interpolation, what you do that you pass from a class to template, that you pass data, and it is always one way. So it's like read only, like we did in the message. We were just interpolating that, and the how you interpolate, you use double curly braces to do interpolation. The second kind of data binding is known as property binding. In property binding, what you do, you again pass value from class to a template, and actually it sets property of HTML element. So if you have a property, let us say you have a property called height in Angular 2 class, TypeScript class height number equal to 30, and you want to set height of a image. So how you can do that? Using property binding, you will use a square bracket, and you'll say that, hey, image, and use style dot height equal to, and name that particular property from your class. So it will set height of that image from the class, and this is how property binding works. Again, in property binding, the data flow each from your class to your template. So this is property binding. And third kind of binding is called event binding. In event binding, what we do, we pass instruction from template to a class. It is achievable by using a small bracket. So for example, if you have a function called add on the class, and you want to execute this function on a button click, so you'll go ahead in the template and say that, hey, get me a button, and click binding, and go and execute that particular add from the class. So this is how your event binding works. And fourth kind of binding, which is again event binding, in that you are passing data from template to class. And fourth binding is two-way data binding. And two-way data binding is actually combination of your property binding and event binding. So we are going to use the both symbol, square bracket and small bracket. So here is square bracket and small bracket, and then inside this you'll use ng model. And what it will do, it will create a two-way data binding between the properties of your class and HTML element. Now, using these bindings, what I'm going to do, I'm going to very quickly create a calculator application to show you these different types of binding. Okay, so let us go back to our application again. And in our application, in the same app.component.ts, let us go and say that, hey, get me a num1, and type of num1 is number. Then get me num2, type of num2 is number. Then create a property called result number, and then we are going to create a function called add. And in this function we'll say that this dot result is equal to this dot num1 plus this dot num2. Now this is a very simple class. You can see there's nothing to explain here. Like I have 3 properties and then one function. In that function we are adding 2 numbers. Now we wish to use this and we need to create template for that. Now of course writing all this code here would be tough, because you want to separate your template, you want to separate your view in separate file, and you can do that by setting a property instead of template called template URL. And template URL actually takes a string, and in that string we can pass where our HTML is. Good idea is that always your HTML and your component class should be in the same folder. So here I'll go in the app folder and say that, hey, get me new file. Now again, here is a naming convention. If your component name is app.component.ts, then your template name should be app.component app.component.html. So here I have app.component.html, and in this component we can go and write our HTML what we want to write. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a I'm going to copy paste HTML quickly and show you that what it is doing. So here I have HTML called add numbers and then div class row, and I'm using that. Now line number 5 is very important for you. In line number 5, what I'm doing for input type, for input HTML input control, I'm creating two-way data binding for that. And that is done by using ng model, and ng model is inside that banana box, which is actually a combination of your event binding plus property binding. So I'm saying that, hey, ng model, and set that to num1. And if you now go back to TypeScript class, you remember that we had something called num1 over here. So that data from that input control would bind to this num1, and if something is getting changed in this num1, that input control will be reflected. So we have created two-way data binding between these two. Again, come back to app.component.html. In the same way, we have ng model num2, that is these two are examples of two-way binding, line number 5 and line number 8. What next we are doing in line number 14, we are using event binding, click event binding or button to call a function add, which we created in our TypeScript class. So this is line number 14 is example of your event binding. And in line number 17, what we are doing, we are displaying result using interpolation, which we saw in previous demo as well. And that is line number 17. So line number 5 and line number 8 is example of two-way binding. Line number 14 is example of event binding, and line number 17 is example of interpolation. So once it is here, what we got to do, we got to set value of template URL, and template URL is app dot component dot HTML, if your spelling is correct, app.components, UMPONENT, app.component.html. So great. So here we have separated that HTML to different HTML file, template to different HTML file. And now let us go and see how it works. So save all and navigate back to our application. Great. So here is some exception. That's why you are getting that loading app. You remember we use this loading app inside index.html. When on index.html we are using that component, our main component. You get this whenever there's an exception. Now if I press F12 just to investigate that exception and go to console, it is telling me that it is not able to find app.component.html. And what it is trying to do, it is trying to find out, it is trying to locate app.component.html from the local host directly on the on my base directory. Now there are two ways we can solve it. One is, of course, you can go and give here relative path, and it should be solved in line number 6, and it should be solved. Other way is you can come here and set module ID property of your Angular 2 component, and I'll say that hey, set module ID to module dot ID, and here it is setting module ID module dot ID. Now if I go and save all and run this, and here it is. So if you are setting ID, module ID of your component, you don't have to worry about your path and all that. And if your component and HTML are in the same folder, you should be able to take that. So here you see that enter number 1, it is bind to num1 property of class. So let's put some value here, 43. Then enter number 2, it is bind to num2 property of the class, and again put some value 20. So these two are using two-way data binding. When I click on add using event binding, the click of this button will execute add function. So again, there is some spelling or something we are missing, and here is our function name is add. Wow. And the thing is, here our result is res, so we got to go to Angular component.html and change that to res. We don't have anything called result. Okay, so that's using interpolation, and if we come back here again, 34, 22, those two are to a binding add, and it is giving us 56 result. So this was a very simple demo, but it's shown us that how we can use different kind of bindings. Now I told you that your Angular component can have styles as well. So here we can very much go and to your component, and here we can say that, hey, style it, create a style for me, styles, and that styles takes a property string array. So we'll say that, hey, give me styles. Okay, and in styles we can say that I want a string, so h1, and change h1 color to red. So what it will do, it will change, we are displaying result in h2. So I'll go here and say that, hey, what I want this h2 to be changed to all the header tag for this particular component, header 2 tags should be changed to red. So if this is style sheet is correct, this is style, if I have put it correct and go and say save all and come back, so here we see that that has been changed to red, 4 and 5, and it is giving you output in red. So you can have your style dynamically separately for each components. Keep in mind that that particular style again can be separated to a different CSS file, and in that case you can instead of styles you can use styles URLs, and you can have your style in different CSS. And again, style URLs takes an string array, so you can have your styles in more than one CSS files. So this is something which is important to know for components. Yes, so here we have created a component, a simple component. Let's move ahead. And I'm giving you a 30-second time to consolidate. If you have any queries, please feel free to put it into a Q&A panel. In 30 seconds, we'll move to next topic. Great. Now let us move ahead, and I see there are many good questions coming. So there are a few questions which I would like to answer now. Where this recording would be available? This recording would be available on Infragistics blog, and once recording is available, since you are attending this webinar, you will get an email from Infragistics that, hey, a recording of this webinar is available. Otherwise, once it is available, I share it on my Twitter and on my Facebook as well, so you can come to know about the recording from there as well. So that is recording would be available. This source code would be also available to download, so don't worry on that part. And I see there are many very good questions are coming in, and what I'll do after this webinar, I'll try to answer as many questions as possible. And if your question is not answered, when we write a follow-up blog for this webinar, we'll try to answer those questions in the follow-up blog, or anytime you can send me email as well. Great. So let us now move. We have this export class app component. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to deal with tasks. So what I'll do, I'll go and create a folder called task. In this folder, I'm just going to start with displaying some products. So in this demo, we'll learn how to work with HTML and how to work with TypeScript array and how we can display that. So what I'm going to do, I have created a folder called task. In that folder, I'm going to, let us say, deal with a product component. So I'll say that, hey, in task folder, oh, there's some mistake. So move recycle bin. I'll go to app, right click, say that get me a folder called task. So here's a task folder, right click, and I'll say that get me products dot component.ts. So I'm creating a file called products.components.ts, and I'm going to put HTML of that in products.component.html. So again, I'll right click on that and say that, hey, products.component.html. So here I have created a going to create a new component. Again, to create a new component, what we got to do, if you remember, very first what we got to do, we got to import a component from Angular core. Once that is done, we need to create a class called export class, and this class name should be same as of your file. So this should start with capital P, P-R-O-D-U-C-T, products component. So this is our class. In this class, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a products array. So I'm going to just copy paste that products array for you. So inside this class, I have inside this class, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just copy paste one products array, and type of that would be any. So here it is, copy, and here is my array. So don't worry about that. This array is a very simple array with 10 elements, and this array, type of this array is any, which product ID, product name, product code, release date, and everything. In real application, this array object, JSON array object, should come from the server, from API, which I'll show you later. But as of now, we are just going to see that how we can work with a hard-coded JavaScript array. So once this array is here, we got to display this, and for that we need to make this products component using the component decorator. We need to convert this products component to a component. So for that, we'll use component decorator. That component decorator takes an object as a parameter. So very first, we'll set module ID as module.id. Once module ID is set, we'll set the selector, and selector value, let us say we are saying that products. Once that is done, we need to say template URL. So template URL, and template URL is products.component.html. So here is our template. Okay, so once this is done, let us go back to products.component.html. In products.component.html, we are going to create template to display that record. So here I am div class row. In this, we'll say that, hey, get us a h1 products. Okay, now I'm going to display these array items inside a table. So for that, we'll go here and say that create another div class row. Once that is done, what we are going to do, we are going to create a table, and set the class of table as table. Once that is there, we need to display that, no, I mean, we need to create as many rows as available in that particular item. So we'll use tr. Okay, in this tr, what we got to do, we got to use the ng for a structure directive, and ng for a structure directive, to use that, we'll go here and say that, hey, tr ng for let p in, and our array name is inside the product component dot cs is products. So we'll select that and say that let p in products, and inside this, what we got to do, we got to display different items and display different items in different columns. So we'll use td and td like this. So inside this td, you can go and use interpolation to display an item, and we can say that, hey, p dot id, whatever is the property we want to display. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy paste that td for you. So here, such that we don't waste time in typing that, and here we'll say that, hey, get me this p dot product price, p dot product code, release date, price, and starting rate. And for first td, I'm putting it right now empty, because we are going to display image in that later. So once this is done, file, save all. Now we need to know that how to use this component, because we have already bootstrap app component, then how we can use this. So there are two options left. One, we can use this component on the routing, which we are not going to do right now. Another way is that we can use this component inside app component. And to do that, very first go to app.module.ts, and here we need to import that component. So import, component name was product component, and we need to implement that, we need to import that from dot tasks products dot component. So from here we got to say that, hey, get me products component. So it is inside tasks dot, and it is actually inside task folder. So what we are saying that, hey, import products component from task.products.component. Once you have imported it, we got to declare that here. So we have declared that in our main module. We have already bootstrapped it, so we are not going to bootstrap that. We'll go to app component. We want to use that inside app component. So again, in the app component, we got to first import that. So go to app.component.ts and say that, hey, import products component from task.products.component, and here in HTML, let us say we want to use that. So in the HTML, we have already seen that. What we are going to do, we are going to say that create a div, and in this div we want to use products. And if you remember that selector for products, product component selector is products, so we'll select this from here, and in the app.component.html we'll just say that, hey, I want to use products. If everything is fine, save all and run application. So we have messed up something. So let's see that, what is that? So it is saying that there is some problem in ng4, and so let us go and fix it. And we are using ng4 inside products.component.html. We are saying that, hey, tr ng4 let p in products. I guess let me just check the syntax for you quickly, and it should be ng4 let p Instead of in, it should be off. Let P of products. And what is difference between off and in? Or maybe in other webinar we'll try to cover that. So here you see that we have all the products coming in from that hard-coded TypeScript array. Now let us see that how we can display image and learn about property binding. And for that, what I'm going to do, okay, so what I'm going to do here in our component, you remember we had this TD. In TD, what we'll say that, hey, give me a image. So this image control would be img. And then I'm saying that set source. So see, we are setting the source of the image using property binding. Source of this image to p dot image URL. Image URL is a property. Okay. Now here p dot image URL, and now using the attribute binding, we are binding that save all. And if we go back and run application again, so the problem is we got to close this file, save all. And here you see these images are coming, but they are not in good, I mean, their sizes are very different and everything. And let us say we want to set height and width of this image from our TypeScript class. So for that, what I'll do, I will go to our TypeScript class, and in the TypeScript class, we'll create two more properties called, let us say for image height and image width. So here we are saying that he create two properties called image width and image height, image width and image margin. Once that is done, we want to set these values as a width and margin of our image using property binding. And for that, what we got to do, we'll go to HTML again, and in HTML here we'll say that, hey, after this source has been set using attribute binding, here we'll say that, hey, set the style.width.pix in pixel from image width of which is coming from TypeScript class, which is a property of TypeScript class. Next, what we are saying that set the margin, which is again to the property of a TypeScript class. And again, go and save it all. And now we expect that the sizes should be fine of the images. So here you see that how we are using attribute binding to control all the properties of image, like source, like width and margin, etc. So so we have crossed the time. Anyway, so I'll leave our webinar here only. Today we have covered how we can create a basic components and how can we started with Angular 2 application. In next webinar, which I'm doing this Angular 2 webinar for Infragistics, we are doing it each month. In next webinar we will do, and I request each one of you to rejoin in next webinar. We'll start this service, we'll bring data from API, and then we'll see routing, and if time permits, then in the next webinar of that we'll go and do the forms and input, etc. So I request you to keep joining our webinars, and keep in mind that there are a lot of things we have to cover in Angular 2, like how to create a attribute directive, how to pass data from a parent component to child component. So in this case, how we can pass like right now, if you see that in the app component we are using products component, so how we can pass some data from app component to products component, and how products component can pass data to an app component, and all those things. So we would be covering all those in our blog post, we would be covering all those in further webinars. I request each one of you to feel free to join our webinars, and since you already attended today's webinar, next webinar would be more beneficial for you. Uh, with that, thank you so much everyone for joining today's webinar. I hope it was useful, and it was very basic, but it will help you to get it started. This source code will be available on our follow-up blog post, webinar recap blog post, and the recording would also available on webinar uh, recap blog post. Uh, if you want to go and check it out about other products of Infragistics, please go to infragistics.com. Go and check it out, download trial version, evaluate it, use it. And again, if you have any sales related queries, then I'll display you email address again. You can go to, if you are from India and you are buying from India, then you can reach to sales-india at infragistics.com. Or if you are from Japan or APAC countries, Asia Pacific countries, you can reach out to APAC sales at infragistics.com. And if you have any technical queries and anything you need, uh, you can reach out to me. Again, Ignite UI is open source now. Feel free to use that. Feel free to contribute to that and give us your valuable feedback. That blog post is available there, and I will be sharing on different social media website as well. Again, this is my email address, dkumar@infragistics.com. Please let me know that how you find today webinar. And if you are active on social media, I request you to share your opinion and feedback about webinar on tweet, tagging Infragistics or hashtagging Infragistics. So with that, I'm going to stop recording and I will try to answer some of the questions. And once again, thank you so much everyone for joining today's webinar. Thank you so much.